Hi, everyone. My name is Gunjan Syal. I'm Transformation Executive at Emerald Technology Group, Inc. I have about 14 years of experience offering clients strategy, governance, program management services on their transformations. With me today, I have Stephanie Kelly. So, Stephanie, cheers.
Cheers to that. Will that
Cling.
work?
Yep, virtual cling. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Stephanie Kelly. I am a third year PhD student at Queen's University. I am studying management analytics at the Smith School of Business. I specialize in the ethics of AI in financial services. And prior to returning to academia, I worked in the consumer packaged goods industry for 5 years. So a little bit of academia, a little bit of industry.
That
Very
is
happy to be
wonderful.
here.
Thank you so much. So to get us started, Stephanie, please share your thoughts on what transformation means to you.
I think it's a very loaded term these days
Yep.
for first thing. Working in the digital and kind of the AI space, obviously the term digital transformation comes up quite a
Yeah.
lot. To me, at the end of the day, it's a route change in your organization to achieve some kind of strategic objective.
Hmm.
When we think about the digital piece, obviously that's some kind of digital or technological change that you're taking to achieve a strategic objective. But I think the really important part is the objective.
That is very
Um,
true.
yeah. So, whether it's transforming digitally for AI
Hmm.
or, customer centricity, at the end of the day, those are just tools that are being used to achieve an objective. So that objective today is often customer centric or trust
Right.
centric.
That is
So,
very true. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can definitely attest to that. One of the other things that I've noticed is also the role that culture plays around all of that, because there's a lot
hmm
of change involved in a
hmm
lot of these transformations, especially on digital transformations, right? Essentially, you're changing the way people work in your
hmm
organization, the way they support, as you said, customers at the end of the day.
yeah, absolutely. I think when we think about digital transformation and you read about it,
Hmm.
it's not just technology, and in
Yep.
fact it really isn't the technology that's changing. Whether you're implementing, again, it can be any technology, it could be
Yes.
AI, but at the end of the day the transformation part is about the leadership, about the
Right.
culture, about the processes in the organization. And that's something I think we sometimes too often forget, especially
Yes.
when it comes to AI.
That is very true. So speaking of AI, could you tell us what role does AI ethics plays on transformations these days?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the basic piece is, what role does AI play in your strategy is the question
Hmm.
you need to be asking.
Yes.
Um, you shouldn't be transforming or trying to use AI if it doesn't align with your strategic objectives. Just
Right.
how you shouldn't be, performing some kind of transformation without it
Yep.
having a strategic objective. So, in terms of how AI and how maybe AI ethics can play a role, it needs to be an integral part of achieving some strategic objective. If your
Right.
transformation is to be a customer centric organization, how can you use AI to do that? How can you use AI ethics? Similarly, if that transformation is for
Right.
trust, it I don't think it's any different really than another tool that you might implement. Yeah, it might be faster,
That is true.
but it isn't that different. Sorry to uh, make that a huge surprise, but at the end of the day, it's just a technology.
Right. What does ethics in AI actually mean to you? Because I've heard it placed quite differently by different people as well. So in your mind, how do you even define that?
So, I mean, I have an academic definition, which I won't go through today. If anybody is interested, you can have a look at my research. But
Hmm.
for what that means to an organization and what that means to me as like a business, having my business hat on, is how are we using technology to garner trust from our
Right.
customers, or using technology in a trustworthy way. And
Okay.
the ethics behind it, you could go into all kinds of ethical ideas, like whose ethics, and what
Hmm.
kind of ethics are we looking at. But at the end of the day, it's, does your customer or does the person you're using AI trust or believe in
Right.
the reasons that you're doing it.
Right. And how you're using their data, right? Because at the end of it, you're
Absolutely.
collecting some information from these people, and how you store that, how you use that, who you share that with. To me, that's all part of that trust factor. How transparent are you with those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. And so originally, when we looked at AI ethics, you spoke to industry people maybe 2 years ago. It was really
Right.
just about the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's about not just the algorithm, but kind of the whole ecosystem that you're
Right.
working on, the data, the processes that are in
Right.
place, and that transformation. I guess people are thinking about it in a much larger scope rather than just an algorithm or a
That
piece
is
of
true.
machine learning.
That is very true. So now thinking about, let's say a company implements this as a
Hmm.
proof of concept.
Hmm.
What advice would you have for them? And what type of things should they keep in mind when they're thinking about scaling this up?
So, as somebody who works in AI ethics, I think my bias is definitely AI ethics first.
Right.
You get this mentality from some organizations that you need to have multiple types of AI, or you need to be fairly
Right.
advanced in AI before it's a concern, and that's not simply not the case. So you need to be AI ethics mindful, I guess, before you jump into using
Right.
AI. Because if you create projects or even pilots that are
Mm.
unethical or lose customer trust, you're
Right.
never going to be able to get the innovation and kind of the benefit from the
Right.
technology. So that would definitely be number one. So AI ethics first. The second is just like test, test, test.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of research on AI ethics, but a lot of it also says that, we just don't know what we don't know yet. The
That is true.
technology is changing so fast. So if an organization wants to, have AI ethics, have AI and have it in a scalable manner, they need
Right.
to be testing it for
Yep.
ethical concerns,
Yep.
whether that's through a sandbox or through kind of pretend data. There's lots of different
Mm-hmm.
methodologies behind that.
That is
So
true.
that
And
would
one,
be,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And one of the things that comes to my mind is when they're putting together use cases for this, there
Hmm.
needs to be more than just that one thought for that proof of concept, right? Because as you said, you
Absolutely.
don't know what the consequences of this would be. You don't know how it would grow and ultimately impact your entire ecosystem of services.
Hmm.
So not
Yeah.
only that, but from an employee's point of view as well, how will it change their lives? Because they're the ones that would be using these tools to deliver services to your customers.
I think that's very valid. And, at the end of the day, it's not just about customers when we think about the
Right.
transformation. In fact, when it comes to AI, it's often more about the employees. And
Mm-hmm.
the way that you make business decisions will change.
Right.
And that's somewhat different from other, technologies that we've used. It could be faster or could be,
Mm-hmm.
maybe using different data. But now we're saying some decisions will be made by machines.
Right.
That's a big change versus
That
what
is
we said
true.
in the past. So.
Absolutely. It's not just that criteria, right? It's that criteria plus how that criteria will change. The
Mhm.
decision for the change, as you said, is up to the machines now as well with AI.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I'm wondering, the landscape that we're in, we're having
Mhm.
this coffee virtually and we're practicing social distancing. So we had
Mhm.
that conversation offline actually last week.
Mhm. Yeah.
When you mentioned that as a student, being remote most of the time doing research, it doesn't really impact maybe our lives currently as much. But if you
Mhm.
think about it from a business's point of view and ethics in AI point of view today, from your perspective, would this environment impact any work that those people are currently doing? Does building ethics
Mm.
in AI, those conversations at businesses, do they require in-person collaboration, or is that something that could happen remotely?
It's a very interesting question, and I think it's also tied to a change that we're seeing in the industry right now
Right,
around AI as a service.
right.
So, although quite ironic almost, but a lot of big organizations are moving to this AI as a service idea. And so, for those who don't know,
Hmm.
AI as a service is, a platform or an online third party that performs a lot of AI analysis.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
as a company, you can really just upload your data, and there's either a very basic GUI like graphical interface, or just a company that does the analysis for you.
Wonderful.
So we're moving away from this, you must have a lot of data scientists in your organization.
Mm-hmm.
That's linked to this, working remotely, this isolation
Right.
idea. So it may not be that the organization is going to rely on people to be doing their data science. It may be
Right.
that they're relying on kind of third parties or
That is
the,
true.
the technology itself.
That is
So I
very
think
true.
that's something that, a different paradigm that we could be moving to as well.
So sort of outsourcing your how you make decisions even from that point of view, what type of analytics come back,
Yeah.
and then what the
And at
next
least the
steps could be.
analysis. So it's
Yes.
not that the data scientists or, those analysts are going to be going away,
Right.
but instead they're able to interpret the data outcomes and
Right.
really interpret the business decisions that need to be made. So I
Right.
think those can be done, they have to be done in collaboration, right? No
Right.
business decision, big business decision,
Yes.
whether it's ethically charged or not, can be done by itself.
Right.
But we've seen, we're talking on Zoom, we're seeing
Yeah.
lots of other technologies that are allowing that.
Absolutely.
So I think it's, two-pronged there. The analysis itself, the AI, when you think about the computation, that might
Hmm.
not be done by humans anymore, but the actual business decisions, that
Right.
will always remain the same.
That is very true. And that's where that broader definition of ethics and how it even transforms as a concept. I'm curious to see where that ends up in next 2, 3, 5 years, how that evolves further as well, right?
Hmm.
So that's very
Absolutely. Yeah.
interesting.
What are those ethical conversations that organizations are going to be having if they're not so focused on just getting the technology to work?
Right.
You're able to have those more detailed conversations.
That is very interesting. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Really
Of
appreciate you
course.
sharing all these insights.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.